What is the appeal of watching sports? It's not just the raw statistics, nor is it purely who wins and who loses. What keeps us around are the stories, the impossible comebacks on and off the grounds of competition, the falls from grace, the athletes we idolize and the ones we despise. It's all because of the humans behind them. This is why, in a medium where plenty of fans who are not interested in tennis, volleyball, swimming, basketball, or any number of obscure athletic competitions get so invested in sports anime. Because the core nature is one of storytelling. And when it comes to understanding what that means on a national scale or a personal one, Ping Pong the animation is hard to top. At its core, this is a coming-of-age story. It follows a number of high school ping pong players in Japan who are at a crossroads many young athletes face. Questions of, what is this sport to me? Is it something I want to continue pursuing? How far? Can I make it a career? Can I use it to get into college? Or is it destined to become little more than a nostalgic memory? There are a ton of fantastic characters who grapple with all of this in their own ways. Smile and Peko become rivals that push each other forward in a surprising way. There's Kazuma, who's the product of modern training bolstered by corporate interests, struggling to define his own style that isn't just being the dominant force he was created to be. Or Kong Wenge, the disgraced rising star who was forced to leave his home country of China, now having to prove himself in what he sees as an inferior environment. But it's not just the big characters who get all the attention and the incredible animation and stylizing. Plenty of the bit roles hit upon equally important relationships sports can play in our lives. For me, the one that always gets me most is Agami. In an 11-episode series, he has roughly 3 to 4 minutes of total screen time. The first instance we see of him is at an inter-high tournament on the road to nationals. He's a third year, and judging by his internal monologue, he's not been that successful. While not expecting much, he wants to make it to nationals just once as his youth and likely his ping pong career fades. He doesn't want his last match to be a loss to a first year he's never even heard of. Unfortunately, his opponent, Makoto Smile Tsukimoto, is done stymieing his own talent, much to the behest of his coach, Butterfly Joe. Smile dismantles Agami. Not much time is spent with the match, just the first 2 serves by Agami that are returned in a ruthless, machine-like fashion. Through the remainder of the series, we get brief check-ins such as the truly fantastic Christmas scene, in which he decides to go abroad. Eventually, his arc concludes with him watching the final tournament from the stands, having an epiphany that despite all this soul-searching he's done in the last year, he loves ping pong. Always has, always will. It doesn't matter if he's not destined for greatness, he just loves the game. So why does Agami hit me so hard? Well, I see a lot of my own relationship with sports in his story. When I was far younger, my dream was to be a professional baseball player. I played almost year-round from the time I was 5 well into my teens. I idolized Ken Griffey Jr. and tried to model my game after him. I was pretty good too. Good enough to make my small town's all-star team, which competed in the Cal Ripken Little League, that had its championship televised every summer on ESPN. At 9 years old, I was one of the better power hitters on the squad, and that year we won regionals, a tournament that over a dozen different teams from the county participated in. We then moved on to states where kids from all over New Jersey came to play for a chance at nationals. We got demolished, utterly obliterated, losing the first game by mercy rule, which sent us to the losers bracket. Again, demolished and eliminated from the tournament. I was good for my small town, and my team was good for our little section of South Jersey. But on a statewide level, where we were to compete with bigger kids from bigger towns and better training, we didn't stand a chance. I mean, in fairness to us, the tournament did include players who went on to the MLB, including arguably the best to ever play. Still though, I hadn't realized it then, but it was the first moment reality began to sink in. As the years went by, I slowly lost interest in baseball. It clearly wasn't my sole passion, nor was it something I was exceptionally talented at. By the time I got to high school, I was disinterested and my mediocre skills reflected that. Baseball was over for me. In the midst of those waning years, I increasingly disliked the sport, largely because to even play on a high school level for a small town meant practicing 5 or 6 days a week. Starting the season in early February, freezing, the sting of hitting the ball with an aluminum bat in the cold reverberating up my arms. The way it ate into my free time, where I would rather have been playing video games or hanging out with friends. And because I was no longer on par with those kids I had made it to states with, it was always so awkward to go up to bat and strike out with everyone watching. I didn't have the fire in me to even be a backup. I never quit the sport outright, but I made damn sure I got cut from the team in my sophomore year. I look back now and maybe it's nostalgia. It certainly is to some degree, but I kinda miss those days. Or at least I have some regrets over them. I never hated baseball. I just didn't like it being a thing. Much like how Smile initially is uncomfortable with the attention he gets from his coach. When he was little, ping pong just meant playing games with his friend. Now it's complicated. And baseball got complicated for me. I didn't want to train hard and become great. I just wanted to kill some time and have fun while doing so. Even if I struggled at showing my enjoyment. If baseball was just a couple practices a week and then maybe 1 or 2 games, I probably would have stuck with it. Individually, practices weren't that bad either. Seeing the scenes of the high schoolers just messing around reminds me of my teammates doing exactly the same. By the time I hit junior high, I predominantly played outfield because practices were light. We were left to our own devices, fielding fly balls and running cutoff man drills that were conducted amongst ourselves as the coaches spent more time with pitchers and infielders. When Agami sits in the stands and starts to cry as he realizes he actually loves ping pong, that just because he's not going to ever compete with those he's watching doesn't mean he has to give up on the game, well, I get that. There's a lot to love about ping pong the animation. I've hardly touched upon the ways Proto-Science Saru's mastery the loose and ugly style they've become known for is such a perfect fit for manga artist Taiyo Matsumoto's work. How techniques such as dividing up multiple shots on the screen at once via paneling guides the viewer's eyes around to the most important details, also elevating the impact of every swing of the paddle. Or how the Kensuke Ushio composed OST is not only his superb usage of the genre melding, but incorporates the sound of the ball bouncing or sneakers squeaking on a freshly polished gym floor brilliantly. I've hardly talked about any of the main cast, and there's just so much to get out of them. What ping pong gets better than most entries from the genre is that people play sports for numerous reasons. Not everyone is so gung-ho about winning the big tournament and becoming number 1. By the time we meet Agami, ping pong is just a thing he does, just because. Just because he always has. Just because it looks good on a college application. Others might join because all their friends have, or it's a means of climbing the social ladder of youth. No matter what the reason though, sports force us to learn about ourselves, about how we handle commitment, pressure, and training to reach our goals. Accepting that the outcome of all of that may not be what we had in mind, but learning to find comfort in that new path is something special. I'm nowhere near as active as I was when I played baseball 9 months out of the year. Part of me really misses having an outlet for both exercise and to satiate my competitive drive, to help with my scatterbrained nature that so often keeps me from achieving the goals I set for myself. Running this channel has certainly helped to some degree, but as I approach my 30s, there is so much I want to improve upon. The last decade has been chaotic and rarely have I felt as in control as I would like. How sports enforce improvement through a routine is something I think I could really benefit from, because I want to focus on self-improvement and make my 30s all the better for it. I don't want to look back like Kazuma does at the end of the show and feel like I missed something, that I never was able to really capitalize on the peak of my life. I don't want my 20s to be my peak. No one should. But I'm also not going to wait another year to get started. You folks may not see every instance of this. I'm not entirely sure what all of this will entail, especially given the state of everything. One area I will continue to strive forward in is right here, to see each new video as an opportunity for improvement and to find my place within this landscape we call YouTube. Like Agami, I might not be destined to reach the top, but I love doing this. so I'll keep plugging away as I continue carving out my comfy little niche. So, a new year and 3,000 subs. Definitely happy with this amount of progress. Still quite surprising I've made it this far, and I am truly grateful to all those who've supported me in any way, especially those who donate on Patreon. Hoping to have the next video out pretty soon, so I'll see you then.